Chairman, may I give my answer on that? It's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the
hypocrite, because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
A fiery confrontation broke out between Representative Thomas Massie and Attorney General Pam Bondi during a congressional hearing over the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Massie came armed with documents he said exposed serious failures by the Department of Justice, including alleged mistakes involving survivor information and heavily redacted FBI records. But when Massie pressed Bondi for answers, the exchange quickly became heated. At one point, Bondi fought to finish her response as Massie repeatedly attempted to reclaim his time, creating one of the most dramatic moments of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victim's survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr.
Chairman.
This isn't how this works.
Can I have my time back? Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from
Kentucky. All right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So yes. I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that? It's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of over
listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Gentlemen,
you need to get on to these matters.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday. that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am reclaiming my
the
time.
last
I'm
4
glad you're
years?
asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because
time
this
when
is
you don't-
bigger than
when you can't-
Watergate.
when I don't answer a question the way
This
you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to
most
know at what
transparent-
point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Les Wexner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired. She didn't answer the question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
order.
Mr. Chairman, could she answer the question?
Chairman, I was wondering,
The gentlelady's allowed, the Attorney General's allowed to respond the way she wants to respond to any member's questions, Republican, Democrat.
All right, I have unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized for a UC.
All right, this is an example. I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted, even when you go to look at them.
Without objection.
I'm submitting a witness statement that implicates Les Wexner.
Without objection.
I'm submitting an article from the New York Times that the DOJ released nude photos and
Without objection.
identifiable pictures of the victims. I'm submitting a letter from A.G. Bondi to Kash Patel, imploring him to quit keeping the files when you found out that they were keeping files from you, because
Without
they're still
objection.
redacting files that you.
Chairman, are we going to recess?
Massie began by displaying documents that he said demonstrated the DOJ's failure to properly comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Point 1 document, according to Massie, was an email from attorneys representing Epstein survivors that contained names that were not supposed to be released. Massie argued that the DOJ ended up releasing the very information that survivors' lawyers had asked officials to protect, that he questioned how such a serious mistake could happen and demanded to know whether the department could identify the people responsible. Massie also argued that the DOJ appeared to have handled the document manually because some information was redacted while a survivor's name allegedly remained visible. The confrontation intensified when Massie turned his attention to Les Wexner. Massie presented a document that he said contained information identifying Wexner in connection with an Epstein-related investigation. He questioned why the name had been redacted and accused the DOJ of withholding important information from the public. Bondi pushed back, arguing that Wexner's name appeared extensively throughout the files and saying the name in question was restored within approximately 40 minutes after the issue was identified. Massie wasn't convinced. That he argued that the correction happened only after he confronted the department, accusing officials of being caught red-handed. The exchange became even more intense as Bondi attempted to respond to Massie's accusations. Massie repeatedly tried to reclaim his time, while Bondi insisted on finishing her answer. The committee chairman was forced to intervene, reminding both sides of the hearing rules and allowing Bondi to respond. The disagreement wasn't simply about one document. Massie argued that the controversy raised a much larger question about whether the DOJ was providing the transparency required under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That he specifically questioned why internal decisions concerning potential prosecutions were not appearing in the released material. Massie then broadened his criticism beyond the current administration. He argued that questions surrounding Epstein's activities and the government's handling of the investigation stretch across multiple presidential administrations. Bondi countered by saying that if credible victims or witnesses come forward with evidence, the government would want to hear from them. The clash demonstrated just how deep the disagreement remains over what should be released, what should remain redacted, and whether the government has provided enough accountability. Before the hearing moved toward a recess, Massie submitted additional documents for the congressional record, including heavily redacted FBI 302 forms, a witness statement, and other materials connected to the Epstein investigation. The confrontation left viewers with a major unanswered question. Are the Epstein files being fully and transparently released, or is critical information still being withheld? Massie says the documents raise serious questions about accountability. Bondi maintains that the department has been addressing problems and defending its handling of the files. And as the fight over the Epstein records continues, the pressure on the Justice Department is only growing. For more breaking congressional confrontations, explosive hearings, and political investigations, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next major development.